Greetings, Elderly Vegan here, and welcome to my video on the mighty mitochondria, our primary source of energy. Without a doubt, mitochondria play a huge role in overall health, vitality, and even longevity. First though, I want to provide you with a bit of general information which you might find interesting. Mitochondria are present beyond count in virtually every cell in the human body, particularly in the heart and brain. It is estimated that there are 10 million billion mitochondria in the human body. But then again, it's estimated that on average, humans have about 30 trillion cells in their body. So obviously, it's going to take a fair number of mitochondria to supply energy for 30 trillion cells. But if we want to live, it's in our best interest to protect these little guys from harm and keep them happy and well fed. And it's not too far-fetched referring to them almost as though they were separate living entities within us. I say this because scientists believe that in the distant past, mitochondria were indeed an ancient form of free-living parasitic bacteria, which were engulfed by the cells of higher life forms, and therein formed a mutually beneficial relationship. As it turns out, the mitochondria benefit by having a stable environment and by receiving protection and nutrients from the host cell, while the host cells of the higher life forms receive a reliable source of energy production in the form of ATP, which is regarded as the universal currency of energy for virtually all higher forms of life on this planet. It's also curious that mitochondria contain their own DNA. This should not come as a surprise, given they were once free-living entities in the distant past. And as such, they needed to have their own DNA. Therefore, this bit of extra DNA inside of us is not surprisingly referred to as mitochondrial DNA, as opposed to our own human DNA. And herein is another interesting bit of information. The DNA in our mitochondria almost always comes exclusively from our mother, as the egg is the ultimate source for mitochondrial DNA passed on to the developing offspring. Yet when I was researching this subject, I learned something new. The reason there's no paternal mitochondrial DNA inherited is that it's almost always destroyed during fertilization. But in those rare instances when it's not destroyed, it's apparently referred to as paternal leakage. That sounds like some sort of incontinence issue to me. Just kidding. Seriously though, the significance of happy and healthy mitochondria can hardly be overstated. Mitochondrial health is regarded as one of the 9 hallmarks of aging. And as a result, both mitochondrial number and function decline as we age. And when they are spent, so are we. As you can see, it is critical we do everything possible to keep them fully functional and forming new mitochondria on a continual basis. And one of the major considerations to keep them fully functional is protecting their DNA from free radical damage. This damage occurs at a rate 20 times that of our own nuclear DNA. And one reason for this is because the very act of producing energy results in this disproportionate production of free radicals, therein accelerating the aging process. So it's in our best interest to do all we can to mop up all of the potentially damaging free radicals. But at this point, I thought I would mention a few supplements which not only mop up free radicals, but help with the production of energy in the form of ATP, as well as generating new mitochondria. First on my list of supplements is PQQ, and for simplicity, let's keep it at that. PQQ's claim to fame is that it improves efficiency of energy production in existing mitochondria but it also helps with the formation of new mitochondria. But an even more noteworthy supplement for promoting energy is NAD, or you may see it as NAD+. And although supplementation with NAD is not necessary in our youth, because we produce a sufficient amount when we are young, production of NAD falls off rather significantly as we age, so it is thought that supplemental NAD may indeed be useful as we get older. And for those overachievers out there, NAD stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. But you might also notice there are two abbreviations which are seemingly used interchangeably. They are NAD and NAD+. Suffice it to say, the plus stands for the oxidized form of NAD. But again, for simplicity, let's leave it at that. However, no one actually sells NAD in supplemental form because it would be destroyed by your digestive system before it even had a chance to be absorbed. Therefore, the photo you just saw implying NAD+ was contained within the bottle is in reality a precursor for NAD. In fact, there are two precursors which are generally sold as supplements. One is referred to as NR, which stands for nicotinamide riboside. That's the form which is present in the photo of NAD+ you just saw, and it's rather expensive. Yet there's another precursor which is more affordable. It's referred to as NMN, and it stands for nicotinamide mononucleotide. And if one is low in energy as the result of mitochondrial inefficiency, one can apparently feel the effect of increased energy within the hour after taking the more expensive precursor. I learned of this information on a YouTube video by Dr. Paul Anderson. But supplementing with NAD precursors may do way more than just keeping your mitochondria spinning like a top. According to the world-renowned longevity researcher, Dr. David Sinclair, these precursors activate 7 different longevity genes common to all mammals. These longevity genes are referred to as sirtuins, and given NAD production in our own body falls off with age, you can bet that Elderly Vegan incorporates supplemental NAD precursors for not only mitochondrial function, but to have all 7 of his sirtuin longevity genes activated. And since Dr. Sinclair's research is a relatively new discovery, and even though it has worked wonders in his mice by keeping them going like the Energizer Bunny long after they should have gone to the far shore, this concept of promoting longevity has not stood the test of time in humans. Therefore, I refer to supplementing with NAD precursors as my faith-based supplemental program. However, there's yet another supplement with a dual purpose very similar to NAD, and it too is included in my faith-based supplemental program. It's called resveratrol, and although it's present in red grapes and red wine, taking resveratrol in supplemental form provides a concentrated source. Anyway, resveratrol not only mops up free radicals, but it too is involved with the production of new mitochondria. And in a similar fashion to NAD precursors, resveratrol stimulates at least one of the 7 longevity genes I mentioned. In this case, it activates the one which is usually associated with caloric restriction or fasting. You might also be interested to learn there are foods which have been shown to improve mitochondrial function. And I learned of this information in Dr. Michael Greger's book, How Not to Age. Apparently, mushrooms contain a nutrient referred to as ergothioneine. And this nutrient seems to be particularly effective as an antioxidant inside the mitochondria. And the other compound I learned about in Dr. Greger's book is referred to as urolithin A. Urolithin A is actually a product, it's actually produced by gut bacteria when you eat raspberries, pomegranates, or walnuts. Again, for the overachievers out there, what the bacteria are interested in with those food items I just mentioned is the phytonutrient called ellagic acid. And therein, the bacteria produce urolithin A as a byproduct. In addition, urolithin A aids in the recycling of worn-out, non-functional mitochondria. But I also learned that nitrates improve mitochondrial function, and this can lead to increased athletic performance as the result of increased energy production. So how does one get nitrates? Well, leafy greens and beets are a great source of nitrates, and arugula tops the list. So now I'm having a beet and arugula salad 1 hour before my workouts. And as mentioned, nitrates help in the production of ATP, but the leafy greens and beets also indirectly raise nitric oxide levels in the blood, and this dilates blood vessels, which helps deliver even more oxygen to the muscles. Nitric oxide also lowers blood pressure as well. So what foods are harmful to mitochondria? Well, according to AI, at the top of the list are sugar, refined grains, and processed meats, while stress and sleep deprivation also take their toll. But Dr. Greger also mentions one amino acid in particular, which is apparently a significant contributor of free radical damage to mitochondrial DNA. The amino acid is called methionine. And although plant protein contains this essential amino acid, meat and dairy are definitely concentrated sources. But this information about methionine causing a disproportionate amount of free radical damage was also mentioned by AI. But if there was one reoccurring theme from all of the sources I researched, including books, YouTube video, and AI, the one item most frequently mentioned as being key to optimizing mitochondrial performance and the generation of new mitochondria was regular exercise. And aerobic exercise is apparently the most important. But some sources also included resistance training. So to keep one's mitochondria hitting on all cylinders for maximum ATP energy production, try to consider adding regular physical activity to your program if you don't already include it. And if you do happen to be daunted by the concept of regular physical activity, it should be noted that even walking or hiking definitely helps. Well, I hope you found this video informative, and perhaps it has provided you with some ideas which will help you give your mitochondria guys a helping hand. And in return, they will reward you with extra years of vibrant life. So please give us a like, and we would enjoy hearing your comments as well. To your good health, the elderly vegan.